The Saw franchise is one of the most iconic yet hilarious franchises of all time.
Absolutely.
Of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time.
But what made it so successful despite the increasingly poor reception? And where did it go wrong? Like all great stories, we must start at the beginning. James Wan and Leigh Whannell wanted to make a movie, but they didn't even have $1 million. So what better way to make a low-budget movie than to keep most of it in one room?
The whole concept of the film was born out of the fact that they had no money. We can't have them leave the room, so we'll have to chain them somehow to the wall. And then they asked themselves the question, well, why are they chained there?
Somehow it just managed to work. I mean, it's not flawless, but it's a horror classic. They made a cross between Cube and Seven, and it was awesome. And the film was so successful, it spawned 6 sequels and 2 video games.
The fact that they've been so true to those concepts, I think, is going to strengthen the game, and the kids are going to really enjoy it.
Now, I'm sure I don't really need to explain to you what Saw is. Jigsaw Killer kidnaps some people and then kills them, but doesn't really kill them because he's making them kill themselves in a different way. And it's also they learn to appreciate life a bit more. Yeah, you weren't appreciating your life hard enough, asshole. It's a clever and tightly knit story where the characters actually have character. And for the budget, the filmmaking was actually pretty impressive, despite the fact that James and Lee moved on to make a bunch of bullshit. Although I really like this movie, I'm still left with quite a few questions. The movie opens up with Adam waking up in a bathtub, but he looks like he's been unconscious for a while. And it's not like the water's rippling or anything. Why is he alive? He wasn't hooked up to oxygen. Okay, raise your hand if you're going to argue that Jigsaw dropped him in the bathtub like 2 seconds before the movie started. Okay, now listen to this.
Who's that? No point in yelling. I already tried.
Okay, now slap yourself in the face. When would Dr. Gordon have tried yelling? Seems like he's been awake a lot longer than Adam. What if he drowned? I mean, Dr. Gordon's objective was to kill Adam, so would Jigsaw just be like, okay, you win? Seems like it's leaving a lot up to chance. But all of Jigsaw's games go over perfectly despite the ridiculous amount of variables. So what about the poison in the blood? Would that mean that Jigsaw's just breathing in a bunch of poison the whole movie? Wasn't the plan to kill Adam that way by making him inhale it? This movie certainly isn't as flawed as the later Saw films. In fact, the only other issues I have with it are in terms of delivery.
I know it's you son of a bitch!
Larry.
Hallie?
But one of the biggest reasons why this works as a standalone film is that it leaves a lot up to the imagination. But of course, if you make a film and leave a lot of unanswered questions, that means it's open for a sequel.
Game over.
James never intended for there to be sequels.
Right.
But it's funny though.
1 year after the release of Saw 1 and Saw 2 is already out in theaters, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. But I guess what makes it a Saw movie is that it's low budget and shot within a short amount of time. And although they stayed true to the first film, this is the one that redefined it as a series. Now it's just torture porn.
We're not really into, gizzards spilling out of, somebody's stomach or heads being cut off.
Despite the sequels of Saw.
Yeah.
And like all huge horror franchises, the films became less about the victims and more about the villain. Jigsaw was on his way to becoming a horror icon, and boy were they lucky to cast Tobin Bell as Jigsaw in the first movie, because as the films go on, it becomes increasingly apparent that he was carrying the whole series.
I might as well just insert Tobin Bell dialogue here, because he's going to write it himself anyway. It doesn't matter what I come up with that we think is pretty good. He's like, well, it's a good try, Mark, but my character wouldn't do that, and my character, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, Tobin, you're right, that is better.
In Saw 4, there's a trap that wasn't working properly mechanically, and I had an idea on how we should change it, and so we changed it, and it worked much better, and it worked better dramatically.
Tobin was a guy laying face down for 7 days, and he just laid in that pool of blood. It was never like, oh, I gotta lay here. It was like, that's what I gotta do. I lay in the pool of blood.
Despite what it created, this is actually my least favorite of the Saw movies. It's not nearly as intelligent as the original, and it's not quite stupid enough to be funny yet, although with the amount of variables in this game, it does make it quite a bit more ridiculous. Like, Jigsaw was really banking on that kid to make it out alive, otherwise the cops game wouldn't have worked at all. Not to mention he spent the majority of the movie in police custody. If someone just followed the two when they left, then he'd be fucked. But at least we get to learn that Jigsaw is a master troll, because all that Donnie Wahlberg had to do was just sit there and wait. He would have gotten his kid back and everything. That's all he had to do. And now it turns out that Amanda was part of the Jigsaw crew before this movie even started. Gotta have a twist, right?
The difficulty with Saw 2 was, what do we do now? What's our new version of the guy getting up off the floor? We spent a lot of time trying to come up with new surprises.
Game over.
I'll fucking kill you!
One Halloween later and they've already pumped out another cash magnet. And like Saw 2, this one's directed by Darren Lynn Bousman.
Anyone can make a gore movie, anyone can. You just go down to the store and buy some pig innards and ketchup and blood.
So now that they've made that twist at the end of Saw 2, I guess they gotta develop on it a little. So they continue with Amanda as one of the main characters. But now her character's just becoming less believable. Like, it's already bad enough that we're supposed to believe that she's like, yeah, I'll just start killing people with you now. But now she's just annoying. I guess you don't really have to understand her character's motivations if you just pass her off as nuts. And although she did a great job selling the most iconic scene from the first movie, now that her character's completely changed, I don't think she does that good of a job playing it anymore.
Well, acting is like a game of tennis. So the better your opponent, the better you're gonna play.
She definitely works a lot better as a fragile drug addict than an intimidating villain.
Game over.
But we made it as a twist, so we're doing it anyway. As for the movie itself, I appreciate the fact that they've become a bit more fan-conscious. Like, they kind of just make fun of the first movie by having Donnie Wahlberg escape the chain by breaking his foot. But as for the plot, it's kinda dumb. And Jigsaw's morality lessons are getting kinda questionable. Like, the main game is for some guy who lost his son to a drunk driver, and apparently he wasn't handling it well enough. So what, did Jigsaw just read the news and be like, oh, some kid just died, I better check up on his dad to make sure he's appreciating his life. Looks like he could use some counseling. I'll just kidnap his daughter. So each of the traps have to deal with whether or not he decides to save people that were responsible. So he has to save a girl from freezing to death in a meat locker.
A girl is strung up in a meat locker.
Yeah.
It's a cold meat locker.
Yeah.
Randomly, at random intervals, ice cold water is being sprayed on her until she freezes to death into a block of ice. Which film?
6.
3.
But how long has she been hanging there? What if the dude just woke up a little bit later? Would she already be dead? Jigsaw and Amanda have kind of been occupied. You know, if you just rolled up your shirt and put it on your face, you wouldn't even be hurt trying to save her. But he turns around 2 seconds later and she's already a full block of ice. Oops. He does manage to save one guy, but then he just dies for no reason in the next trap that he's not even a part of. Okay, you guys should have just all been out of the way and tied your shirt to the key and crouched down and it would be fine. And in the midst of this, they've kidnapped a surgeon so she can perform brain surgery on Jigsaw. They show some scenes of Amanda and Jigsaw setting up the game for Saw 1, but they don't show Dr. Gordon, probably because he was busy suing them. So by the end of this, Jigsaw's plan just happens to work itself out. Again! Like, he knew that the judge was gonna die for no reason. He knew that Amanda wouldn't let the surgeon go for no reason so that this guy could come and then accidentally kill his wife. He pretty much knew everything, and he dies at the end of the movie. What a conclusive trilogy.
If it's Halloween, it must be Saw. Saw 4.
So it's Halloween of 2007 and Saw 4 comes out. It seems like a lot of films don't like attaching the number 4 in the title because people would be turned off by it. But Saw wears this as a badge of honor. So where's the plot gonna go from here now that Jigsaw's dead? During the last movie, Jigsaw just put a bunch of wax on a tape and then swallowed it, which confirms my suspicions that he knew that everything was gonna happen. Yeah, he planned for himself to die right then and there. There's no variables. Jigsaw's an omniscient god.
Is there a supernatural side to the character?
Oh, right. Must have been really hard to swallow, but he pulled it off. And the gist of what the tape says is, haha, I'm dead, but I'm still gonna be doing shit. So we see the first trap. One dude has his eyes sewn and the other has his mouth sewn. And for some reason, the dude who wakes up in the room blind automatically assumes that the muffled screaming he hears must be his attacker. Too bad you're dead. So we start off the main plot with a few protagonists left from the first films, and even then they only made small appearances. So you gotta work with something. And this guy irresponsibly runs through the door to try and save his partner, but she's already dead. And now he's Jigsaw's next victim for the main game. So what's his life lesson?
But with your survival came your obsessions. You wanted to save everyone.
Yeah, you want to save everybody. What does this have to do with appreciating life? Come on, Jigsaw. Why do they even still pretend that Jigsaw has morals?
I think it is like the dichotomy of good versus evil. You know, he does these evil things, but yet his heart is really good.
Anyway, we learn that Donnie Wahlberg is still alive and now he has to go save him and also battle his obsession to save people.
Their lives hang in the balance of your obsession. Will you learn how to let go and truly save them?
What the fuck? And the B story is just a bunch of conversations with unfamiliar characters, so they decide to show Jigsaw's wife, and this woman cannot act for shit. All of the other actors in the Saw franchise have been pretty decent, even a lot of the small appearances in the traps. So how does a woman like this get into one of the lead roles and play an important character?
Were you a fan of the franchise before you had even signed on?
I'm not a horror fan, but you know, my friends were the producers, and yeah, I was definitely very excited for them.
Oh, you're friendly with the producers beforehand?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know them?
Well, I was engaged to Mark Berg, Yeah.
That would do it.
Yeah.
So Officer Rigg has to save this woman because Jigsaw put her in a trap. She's a prostitute. She deserves to die. But Darren Lynn Bousman keeps interrupting the scene with awkward scene transitions. Okay, what was so important that you had to interrupt this scene for? Oh, you got a match on the fingerprints.
You check this?
Twice.
Cool, well, I guess we can get back to that scene now. You know, we already wasted 5 bullets. You think you could have just shot through her ponytail? He finally frees her anyway, and then, oh no, she's trying to kill him. This scene is so exciting. I can't wait to see what happens next.
Hey, the prince just came in from Officer Rigg.
Yeah, the audience really cares about the prince right now. So we get back to this scene again, and it turns out Jigsaw blackmailed her. Haha, you tried to save her. And I'm trying to teach you that saving people is dangerous. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So Jigsaw gives him the location of the next trap, meaning he's free to just leave at any time. And he wants to save his buddies so he doesn't like stop and call for backup or anything. That would be smart. And Jigsaw tells him that he needs to kidnap this guy.
Be careful. There are cameras watching. And you must hide your identity.
Why would that even matter with the cameras already seeing him coming into the building? Like, you'd think that this guy would piece it together, you know, with him being a cop. He straps this dude up to his trap, and if he doesn't stab his eyes within 60 seconds, all of his limbs get torn off, and he fails miserably. Why wouldn't you just do both at the same time? Yeah, I'm just gonna test one out and see if I like it first. Meanwhile, they try to develop the origin story of why Jigsaw is such a jerk. Gotta love those scene transitions. It's not, like, really distracting and unnecessary or anything. As per usual, more people die. And shortly after Rigg leaves each crime scene, Strom shows up to investigate it. Look out! And then the movie just continues wasting time developing the character of a dead guy. So he uses this guy for his first trap, and he actually passes the test.
You're fucking dead.
Well, that was successful. Yeah, you can really tell how much this guy appreciates life right now. I think it's safe to say this experimental method of therapy has a really low success rate.
I told him not to take life for granted.
Well, at least you've convinced yourself it works. So Riggs made it to the building where Donnie Wahlberg is. Oh man, how do we get out of this one?
2 people are placed on a fiendishly clever giant set of scales. One might be electrocuted by melting ice. The other one might have a massive cube of ice dropped on his head to kill him. Which film? Big block of ice.
5.
Close, it was 4.
4.
It was
4.
And even though Strom has been investigating each crime scene after Rigg has already visited it, not to mention all the time he spent interrogating Jigsaw's wife, he's only a few minutes behind Rigg. Not even. They're like in the same building at the same time, but they don't see each other.
Better hope he doesn't come through that door.
Who's coming through the door?
So even though Rigg doesn't know it, all he has to do to save them is not go through the door, thus battling his obsession with going through doors. Where's the morality lesson? This guy's in a trap too, but I mean, what's stopping him from just writing on the door, just wait like 10 minutes and don't go through here? Or even just blocking the door. And right in the middle of this important climax, we see this guy. So everyone in the theater that hasn't seen Saw 3 goes, who the fuck is that? Oh man, what a twist. It turns out everything that happened after the opening credits of Saw 4 actually happened before the ending of Saw 3. So technically Jigsaw was still alive during all of this, even though he was busy having a seizure. I think it's safe to say that Jigsaw is no longer the troll of the film. It's the script. Never have I seen such a cop-out just for the sake of having a twist.
Don't open it!
And you failed miserably. All you had to do was wait like 1 second. Sure hope you learned your lesson about wanting to save people by going through doors.
Scary! Do not go through that door!
You know never to go through an unsecured door, ever.
Oh wait, one more twist. It turns out that Hoffman was actually helping the whole time. You know, that guy that was gagged on a chair who we barely know? Yeah, he's Jigsaw's accomplice. That explains everything.
Game over.
So Saw 5 comes out, and after that last twist, anyone who legitimately cared about the story is now just watching to see what ridiculous twist they come up with next.
Excited about Saw 5 or not your thing? Or...
I'm curious. Even the fans of the movie know that it's a clusterfuck by now.
I go up to the directors every day and say, what are we doing? What happened? you know, what's going on.
But what else are you gonna do on Halloween? You're too old for trick-or-treating. Where else do you get junk food? You go to the movies. And if you go to the movies on Halloween, you have to see a horror movie, right? Anyway, I guess everybody got sick of those ridiculous scene transitions, because now this one's directed by David Hackle. I guess Darren Lynn Bousman was also making Repo. The movie starts out with the typical Saw formula by showing somebody in a trap. He has to put his hands in a machine that will crush his bones to dust, or else he'll get cut in half. And this guy actually makes the sacrifice, but he gets cut in half anyway. Well, that's inconsistent with Jigsaw's morals, but don't worry, it'll all make sense later, I promise. It's the intro, remember? It's probably nowhere near the timeline of the actual movie, if we learned anything from the last one. Speaking of the last movie, now we get to figure out what happened to Strom. So he finds Jigsaw's dead body, and then he finds a tape, and it's like, don't keep snooping around or you'll probably die, and he's like, fuck you. So he snoops around, and then... Kind of a pet peeve of mine in movies where they show someone wearing a mask of something and then they create like a monster sound, even though the person in the mask is just a human being. No time to think about that though. Strom's stuck in a trap.
A box is filled with water, locked on a man's head. It's filling with water. In order to stop himself drowning, he has to give himself a tracheotomy with a pen. Which film?
Dude, you're asking. Is the point of this is to show that I have no clue about the whole series.
So Hoffman gets to walk out of this and play the hero, even though he's the one that started all of this.
Nobody made it.
But uh-oh, Strom made it out alive. And just in case you can't remember that Hoffman's actually Jigsaw, it transitions the scene on top of Tobin Bell's face. So Hoffman gets promoted, but he gets a note that's like, I know who you are. And Strom seems to be the only one that's not buying his bullshit story. So after work, he goes and looks on his new game that he's made, because you know he's Jigsaw now. He's continuing the legacy, even though it's not really clear what his motives are. And now there's 5 people in the main trap, because it's Saw 5, ha ha ha.
Today, 5 will become 1.
So they each gotta get the keys at the other side of the room before they get decapitated, but they can only go one at a time. And for some reason, the people that get their keys first have the most trouble with the locks. So it's like super dramatic when they all pull them off at the same time. Oops, sorry. Meanwhile, even though Strom's been kicked off the case, he keeps investigating, and he also keeps talking to himself.
There you are.
But he digs up some dirt on Hoffman and finds out that, oh my god, he was the one that killed the guy in the opening scene.
You killed him. Made it look like a jigsaw trap.
Gotta say it out loud just in case the audience doesn't understand. We get to the next trap and they've got 1 minute to get cover from nail grenades that are about to go off. There's 3 places to hide, but there's 4 people, oh no. So they just start beating each other up, and one of them dies again. But how is it not really obvious that more than one of them could have fit in one of those places? It's the most obvious thing in the world.
Someone had to die.
Really? Really?
It challenges your intelligence. I mean, you really want to try to start figuring out how these people can save their own lives and what's going on. And it's, to me, it's just very intelligent.
So we're back to Hoffman, and by this point, he's fucking paranoid. That note has really wrestled his jimmies. Even the slightest noises are setting him off. And this woman was completely unfazed by the fact that this guy just had his gun pointed at her and her dog. This is kind of a weird scene altogether.
Do you mind?
So now he's in the elevator, but so is Jigsaw. Oh wait, so this scene actually isn't taking place after he got the note? Even though you transitioned a scene with him going through a door right after reading the note and then going in through another door, implying that was his destination. He's even got the same clothes on.
Viewers now can tell the difference between the past, the present, the future, and know where they are with just a few images, with just a few visual references.
I guess what happens by this point in the writing process is that they're trying to figure out how to give Tobin Bell screen time despite the fact that his character's dead. Let's just make half of the movie flashbacks. I mean, it's not like they can pull a Friday the 13th Part 6 or anything. Yeah, we'll just confuse the fuck out of everybody. That means this movie's smart. Jigsaw's still omniscient though. I mean, what would happen if Hoffman took the stairs? Everything just happens to work out. So if you're wondering when this scene actually takes place, it's after the opening scene of this movie, but before Saw 1. Scratch that. It's even before the flashbacks in Saw 1. What the fuck?
And the audience is gonna see more pieces to a puzzle that hopefully one day will all come together and make sense.
Jigsaw's a little mad at this guy for trying to imitate his work, but instead of killing him, he's like, why don't you just help me kill a bunch of people? And he's like, okay, Dan. Oh wait, I forgot, it's not actually killing people, it's making them kill themselves.
Killing is distasteful.
Is there really a moral dilemma here? Can we stop pretending like he's not actually killing people? When you set it up so that one person has to live while the other person has to die and you're not really sure which one will be which, it'll still kill one person. That's murder. Not to mention the fact that you're omniscient and you already know the outcome. And it's not like Jigsaw's the only person that pretends it's not murder. All of the movies pretend like it's not murder.
Jigsaw, although there's some confusion about it, is actually not a killer. He provides choices for people, and there are consequences for those choices.
It's trying to be philosophical and make you think about it, but there's really not much to think about. He's killing people.
If a subject survives my method, he or she is instantly rehabilitated.
You're fucking dead.
But apparently it's not even just him anymore. I mean, him and Amanda. Yeah, that's right, they recycled the twist, and now it turns out another person has been helping this whole time. So yeah, in the previous movies, maybe if the camera just panned a little bit to the left, you would have seen Hoffman just chilling and eating a sandwich, taking a break or something. They're not even wearing gloves, so why does everybody in the first movie think that it's just one person? You think they'd find 2 sets of fingerprints? Or 3? Oh wait, I guess I'm not allowed to criticize it, because this is one of the rooms that they never found. And Jigsaw knew for a fact that no one would ever find it.
That leaves luck to chance. If you're good at anticipating the human mind, it leaves nothing to chance.
At best, this is all horribly convenient. A bunch of stupid shit happens that nobody cares about, and then Strom just keeps talking to himself like usual.
We were all supposed to die.
So what happens to the people in the traps? Well, there's only 2 of them left, and they're in the last room, and they realize, oh my god, we could have all survived each of the games. That's the twist. You only needed 1 key to escape the first trap, but it's a good thing they didn't do that, because remember the guy that had the first key, he took like all the time that they had to actually get it off. Maybe this twist would have worked if the second trap wasn't so fucking obvious. Whatever, the point is that now they're fucked. You need to fill the beaker up with 10 pints of blood to get the door open. Would have been a lot easier with 5 people. You know what I would do? I would stick my hand in just a little bit to open up the trap, then I'd whip my dick out and fill it up with piss. Take that, Jigsaw. Whatever, they make it out alive anyway, kind of. Now it's gonna be really hard to fap. Strom manages to track down Hoffman all the way to some random place where there's a trap, but this trap's for him apparently.
The only way to survive this room is by entering the glass box before you.
So did Hoffman just build this trap really quickly after he found out that Strom escaped the other thing? Maybe they just had it lying around and didn't know when to use it up until now. But based on these films, I'd say it's more likely that Jigsaw just knew everything. They probably built it a while ago and was like, Strom will probably just, escape out of this one. And, you know what I would do? I would run out the fucking door with the tape and be like, this fucking idiot gave me all the evidence I need. But then Hoffman comes in to check out the room, and Strom tries to get the jump on him and pushes him into the glass box. As soon as that happens, the doors lock and now Strom's trapped in the room.
Tell me how to open it. How do I open it?
And so now apparently Strom's gonna die in this room.
However, if you choose not to, you will never be heard from again. Your body will never be found.
Maybe I shouldn't have stopped the tape halfway through. This is all pretty convenient. Like, did you also know that when you went in that room that Strom was gonna push you into that box, or did that just work out for you? He's even rigged it so that Strom gets set up for all these murders. I guess he's pretty good at anticipating the human mind, especially considering that he wasn't really trapped in that room in the first place. He could have just left. Well, you didn't, and now you're gonna get crushed Half-Life 1 style. Those are some pretty sick hydraulics that they got. Ew, blood, gross. Game over.
I guarantee you, you're gonna, at the end of Saw 5, you're gonna be like, oh, fuck.